then you find out that those doctors really don't give a shit about what you have or not. They're just there to sell you a piece of paper that says you can go play with a plant that they know nothing about.
I hear how you feel about that potentially. For me, I'm like, I hope that all those people were able to find good educators to help them. But hey, if it's opening the door for people to get access to their medicine,
you're right.
I'm kind of okay as long as they're not being mistreated.
Yeah, the doctors couldn't help it. This plant was ripped out of the pharmacopoeia where they learn about all plants on the planet.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, where we speak the language of cannabis freely and uncensored, while educating our audience on safe use of this live plant therapy. You should know what's in your cannabis, what's good and what's not, because cannabis does not come with an FDA stamp of approval, yet. The information you will find here comes straight from scientists and clinicians, doing the work and reporting their findings in reputable outlets. Hopefully, we can inspire you to research the facts as we know them today. Cannabis is an amazing alternative in health remedies, with the potential to alleviate typical disease problems and troubling side effects, even those caused by synthetic prescriptions. Here now is the host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast. She is a 21st century cannabis shaman, not a doctor, not a scientist. Raised by nuns and wolves in the verdant cattle pastures of the Oklahoma oil fields, here to amplify the truth of this great big story of cannabis in historical, political, scientific, and spiritual terms, so you can make educated decisions about the medicine you choose to ingest. Please welcome Honey Smith Walls.
Dear audience, we've got a little bit of a treat here. This is really kind of on the spur of the moment, on the fly kind of a thing. And Miss Emily Kaspari and I are just now getting to know each other, but she just hit all of my little buttons. And I want you to meet her too. So we're just talking about, girl talk, but let her introduce herself. Emily, thanks for being here. Tell everybody who you are and what you just told me about yourself, won't you?
Will do. Thank you so much for having me. I was just giving a little bit of my background. And so I'm a yoga therapist, board certified health coach, and I've spent the last 10 years really focusing on supporting people really reclaim their health and their lives after struggling with chronic pain. I went into that field after my own car accident where I was riding a bike and was hit by a car, and really went through kind of healing crisis after healing crisis as my whole, not just muscles and joints having to recover from the physical injuries, but my whole body seemed to just be thrown entirely for a loop, not knowing how to handle that traumatic experience. And now I've been shifting into supporting late diagnosed neurodivergent women. As about 2 years ago, I was very unsurprisingly diagnosed with ADHD, but about 6 months ago was very surprisingly also diagnosed with autism, or what would have been considered Asperger's in the past.
I'm trying not to let my mouth drop to the floor, but that's the feeling I have right now. Wow. What do you do when you get a diagnosis like that, and a double diagnosis at that?
Unfortunately, the first answer is spend a little too much time on the internet, because I'm sure as many women and men and other gender identities have found that there's an incredible number of resources for parents to support their children, and very, very few official resources for adults how to support yourself. I had this happen without knowing that this was a big fad in the internet. I'm one of those people trying to do social media more, because it's a really phenomenal place to connect and build community. And it was just in my own mental health journey, my therapist at the time said, you should talk to this guy. I think you'd get a lot out of it. And that's what led through to the diagnosis. And as I said, I immediately wanted to research. For those who know, it absolutely became my hyper focus for a chunk of time. And I just couldn't find resources and support, or those supports were delineated just for ADHD, just for autism. And there would be things that would be helpful, but a lot of the time it was stuff I already knew, already tried, but that way didn't work for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just pushed all of my buttons. I see this in my medical tribe on LinkedIn a lot with some of the experts in cannabis who are themselves neurodivergent and have begun speaking to this issue in such an incredible way. I want to introduce you to Miyabi Shields, Dr. Miyabi Shields. And she's a cannabinoidologist, and she studies, all of that stuff, and she farms, and she's really a magnificent woman. But she talks about being neurodivergent and trying to help society understand all of that, because we don't.
Hi, Honey Smith Walls here. I'm host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, weekly for the past 6 years. But today I'm inviting you to a Facebook group called the Holistic Relief Summit, in hopes that you too will come for the peace and stay for the epiphanies. It's a beautiful space for women to find all kinds of relief from all kinds of suffering. Come join us for free.
Well, hello, I'm Dr. Philip Blair, and I want to introduce you to Honey Smith Walls. And she recently had an experience with beta-caryophyllene.
For years, I've been dealing with lots of arthritis pain and pain from neuropathy that has not been resolved through other prescriptive methods. As an advocate educator in the cannabis industry, I learn lots of interesting information about the compounds within the plants, and one of those turned out to be beta-caryophyllene.
What was your first dose like?
I was gobsmacked. Absolutely gobsmacked. It has given me my future back.
I want to get it out to everybody too. I want to get it out to the whole world, as a matter of fact. It has so many mitigating factors for all the stresses of life and pain and diseases. It is unbelievable, the spectrum of care that it can provide.
We've never had a name for this before.
Exactly. Even I just learned this, that I believe the very first diagnosis of autism wasn't until the 1940s. So it's very new. And that was like nonverbal, the really, really far high support needs version. And it's even compared to that, brand new, to think that someone like me who presents very well, I even studied acting a lot, which was for fun, but then led me to mask without knowing I was masking.
Yes.
And so I was one of those many women where, like, the ADD, no surprise. Anyone who knows me, no surprise. And the autism, my first test results were even surprising the person who was facilitating them, because he was like, he didn't say this until we finished the test, but afterwards he said, especially if you've studied it and you're a neurodivergent person, it's like you have a radar, your tuning forks or something, you can just sense each other. And so he was like, I knew, but the tests weren't agreeing. But what would happen is we'd do a set of questions in one of the tests. I'd go and live for a week, and I'd have this list of things where during the week I realized I answered the question incorrectly for myself because I had masked so much that I had forgotten that was something that I was dealing with. And so like the one that just won't sound surprising, but to me really was kind of the first moments of feeling like I was stopped in my tracks in life is I'm a chocolate fanatic. I love it. I know that I'm almost using it to self-medicate. I can feel how different my entire mental, physiological, emotional state is when I'm eating it and when I'm not. And in that sense, using it medicinally, I almost exclusively eat unsweetened chocolate. Took time to train myself to be able to do that and enjoy it. And with that said, there's a brand out there that hits all of my ideologies. They are as ethical as it can be in terms of environment, in terms of how they treat the workers. Understandably, they're a little pricier.
What's that brand? Name it.
Oh, golly. It's like
when you think of it,
when I think of it, it's Pacha or Pancha, and I can definitely share the information with Honey Smith so she can share it with you.
Yes.
But here's the thing: is even when they were half off for a bag of chocolate chips, and normally I'm also a deal lover.
Yeah.
So I'm pick up this bag, I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I don't like how this feels in my mouth. I don't think I'd actually eat it. It's not worth 50% off because of how it feels in my mouth. And one of the classic questions is the feel of food or the taste of food more important to you? And I was like, taste, of course. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm eating. And in this moment, I like, it tastes great. I know I feel good in my body when I eat it, but I can't stand the mouthfeel. And that just opened this floodgate of memories of things like that, like chocolate mousse. You'd think I'd love it. I can't stand how it feels in my mouth.
Wow.
I absolutely was one of those kids that had to have every single tag cut out of their clothes. I thought my gorgeous blue eyes were why I was light sensitive and had to wear sunglasses if I was going on a road trip. Apparently, that's more likely a sign of that sensory sensitivity that is part of autism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And an extra fun bit of our whole conversation with this is I love cannabis. I'm a very strong believer in it. I have not been utilizing it for myself recently because the main things I was using it for was my chronic pain. And it was a key factor in finally turning the corner from very intensely maintaining and preventing pain flares to not having to think about my pain and my pain management protocol and practices every day. And it really was, for me, it was like a CBD, but broad spectrum tincture at the time that was the first switch of that flip of that switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That is really amazing. When did you first start using cannabis? How old were you, honey?
Oh, how old was I? I was 23.
I was 14. Yeah.
I had tons of friends who used it from a much younger age than me. At this point, I kind of think my fun neurospiciness is part of what made it so I didn't feel the need when many of my friends.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting too. Yeah, not to feel the need. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I love hearing your story and how cannabis has helped you. Have you been, can't remember what the undulating state laws are for your area now. Do you have access to clean products?
Yes. So my state is, I want to say we're about 2 years into commercial THC being legal.
Mhm.
Medical THC has been legal for a number of years, but I don't know how highly, I mean, the quality was highly regulated.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
definitely seemed like it was one of those, you find the right physician, you say the right things, you can probably get your medical card if you can afford the out-of-pocket payments for it. And
then you find out that those doctors really don't give a shit about what you have or not. They're just a piece of paper that says you can go play with a plant that they know nothing about.
Which I hear how you feel about that potentially. For me, I'm like, I hope that all those people were able to find good educators to help them. But hey, if it's opening the door for people to get access to their medicine,
you're right.
I'm kind of okay as long as they're not being mistreated.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the doctors couldn't help it. This plant was ripped out of the pharmacopoeia where they learn about all plants on the planet. It was literally ripped out of the pharmacopoeia, so doctors could not find out about its lengthy, ancient history,
Yes.
So they can't help it. And now that they're even offering to, that's brave. It's brave that they even try to jump into the cannabis arena because they got to know that it's helpful to humanity and to animals. So I try not to show my angst about the gaslighting that's been done to everybody on the planet from our naughty, political shenanigans going on. But that's the only reason why there is a cannabis prohibition. Naughty political shenanigans.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have more ADHD, more ADD, more Parkinson's, more seizure issues, more, IBS, more everything, more inflammatory diseases than we've ever had. Some doctors in the cannabis industry attribute to a deficiency of cannabinoids in our system because we've been prohibited from ingesting it like we have been used to for millennia. They ripped it not only out of the pharmacopoeia, but also out of our food system, so our animals couldn't even eat it. And so we've been used to getting cannabinoids, phytocannabinoids that grow in the plant through our animals. And now we can't get that for the past 100 years. And so what don't we have anymore? Cannabinoids inside of us come from the plant. However, we produce a cannabinoid or two ourselves and even give it to our babies through our breast milk. It's called anandamide, discovered by an Israeli chemist some time ago, and it is it's what produces a runner's high. Yes, it's a natural chemical that we produce, an endocannabinoid, and I'm thrilled that we at least have that because we can fix what man has already wrecked. We can fix a lot of it by accepting the truth about cannabis. This prohibition, this effort to incarcerate people of color and to keep real medicine, real healing medicines away from people for the sake of big pharma, for the sake of big cotton, for the sake of big alcohol, for the sake of big paper. None of those big corporate entities want cannabis coming in. None of them. And yet here she is. So I'm just so thrilled to talk to you about this and how you've used it to help, find relief for the issues that you go through.
Well, and you are just reminding me again that anandamide, the next highest source concentration of it is chocolate. It is a fraction of the amount. So like that's what you're looking for. You can see if chocolate's enough, but it's not nearly as potent as what's in cannabis again. And you are just reminding me the science. I have one of those brains that's like, you just got to trigger the file search, but sometimes that first step is difficult. In how the cannabinoid system is right now our best guess for our homeostasis system, which is huge for chronic pain. What's happened with chronic pain is that your homeostasis got knocked off kilter.
Yeah.
And a huge thing that happens is you use up all the endocannabinoids. And so that is why it can have such an incredible effect without any of the psychotropics. And there are people who the psychotropics is required for them to get the full effect because, again, as you've said, with how our medical system ripped things out, separated things, the mind and the body are not two separate entities. The thoughts in the mind and the experience of the body are not separate entities.
Right.
And so there are people where the THC component is absolutely necessary to help with that rebalancing. And I had never thought of the fact that, of course, we were getting cannabinoids from the animals that we consumed. Of course, that was something that happened. We probably ate the leaves off the cannabis plant just as part of our usual greens as well. And I know that I actually love the taste of the bud just as it is. So I have gotten in trouble a couple of times eating delicious edibles because they just tasted really good before I was affected by the plant at all.
I get that.
Yeah.
Edibles are tough. And I'm ediblocked. Have you heard of that term?
Mm.
It means that I feel no effects from eating edibles. And
I'm almost jealous.
In terribly high concentrated THC compounds, but it has no effect. And that's probably because I used cannabis to get rid of a tumor that was on my gum and used RSO. You familiar with that term? Rick Simpson oil. It's a really, really seriously concentrated THC goo that's straight from the smashed plant.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only use like a tiny rice size amount. And that's like several hundred milligrams of THC, that you're dealing with. And your body gets used to it. And so I used to take that on a couple of times a day. And I was never high. First week, yes. After that, I haven't been high in so long, probably because I used that formulation, Rick Simpson oil, for more than 6 months, and my body just got accustomed to it. The other thing you were talking about, our endocannabinoid system is actually a master regulatory system over all of our other 11 bodily systems, our endocrine system, our skeletal system, our muscular system, our, central nervous system, all those. And so the ECS, our endocannabinoid system, it regulates all of those. Another reason why ripping this information out of the pharmacopoeia of doctors in med school is so heinous. It's just gobsmacking to me when you really find out the serious science that has already been discovered in the last 30 years about cannabis. And yet how still our society, or rather not our society, but some of our political and corporate people in society still don't want this information to get out. Did I say this already? I'm supposed to be going to a lecture tomorrow night for mental health awareness, and I'm the keynote speaker. And I just got a message from the director that their sponsors are saying, no, she can't speak because she doesn't align with our philosophies. And the director fought for me and said, well, she's staying. And they said, well, she can't be keynote. And so the director said, okay, well, I'll put her first. Mm-hmm. And cut my time in half.
Oh.
So that's okay. I'm going out like a wild banshee, savage daughter I am. And I'm going to play that stage and play that whole scenario up. So they won't forget me and they won't forget what I told them. And I guess that's how we have to be in trying to get our point across about cannabis these days. But it's infuriating that we have to work around these ulterior motives.
Oh. I really just feel like unless you are financially motivated, like 100% financially motivated, there's no reason to have a negative opinion around appropriately used cannabis.
Yeah.
And just like every substance that exists, and like with that, I'm including the substance of food, there is an addictive potential. There are people who need to either be supported in using it. I don't want to say in a restricted way, but like that's just the reality of an unhappy human. But otherwise, like you said, there's so much research, and it would have been so incredible to have access to ancient teachings about it, because it's my minimal understanding is that cannabis has for an extremely long time been considered as one of the most holy plants. And in multiple very separate nations. It's not that this was a message that spread from one place and moved out, but that multiple places discovered it and its potency and the gifts from it.
So the first emperor of China, named Xin Yung, was a bit of an herbologist, and he liked plants. And there was no pharmacopoeia yet. And he decreed that all the plants would be written about. And cannabis, of course, has many pages of descriptions in the first Chinese pharmacopoeia where people wrote anything down. And when you look at the pictographs in Chinese, of their language, their word for cannabis is ma, M-A, ma. And I just love that because she is such a beautiful mother of so many. But when you look at the pictograph, it looks like 2 stalks of cannabis hanging upside down from a rafter drying. And you recognize it. Once you've seen it once, you recognize it everywhere in the writings, and it's so fun to realize that, and that it's been around for so long. about glaucoma, about tumors, about seizures, about, bumps and bruises, about lifting depression, about feeling better around death. Just all of these things. We have ancient information and documentation of healings from cannabis. So I'm glad to be speaking about it. I'm glad to be part of the right side of history on this one.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for technology that allows us to spread this word more easily. So, hey, are you on LinkedIn by any chance?
I am. So
Emily, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Shields, and you'll just love her. She's young and vibrant and fabulous and really an awesome woman. And I'd love for you to chat with her about your experience too.
Yeah, that sounds great.
In fact, I think she's got some classical tests going on that you might be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, would you be interested in having our audience chat with you about any of this? If so, drop a place where they can contact you.
Absolutely. So right now I can be found on Facebook, Emily Kaspari, and that is EmilYkaspari. That's also my website. It's emilykaspari.com. And as I said, I'm shifting into that neurodivergent support. And so there's sprinklings of it there. There's going to be more coming. And I've been doing some on Instagram too, which is a whole different name. It's Primal Yogini.
Primal Yogini. I love it. It sounds so powerful.
Yes, exactly. So Instagram is at Primal Yogini. You can absolutely DM, private message me on all of those.
Fantastic.
And ask questions there. And I'm curious if that presentation you're giving tonight is going to be available online, or if there's going to be a recording that you're able to share for those of us who are interested on cannabis for mental health.
Thank you for asking that question. I don't have any idea if they're going to videotape me or not. That's a real good point. But you can see me on Facebook, on many different women's forums. Before you and I jumped on, I just did a lecture on the Resilience Beyond Menopause Facebook group. And so, talking about how we can help ourselves throughout that whole long period, literally before we start our first period till we put our foot in the grave. We need help assuaging the womanly suffering that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always have to be with pharmaceuticals. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be with plant therapy. There are so many modalities of help and therapy and rescue that women can use to make themselves feel better. And so I love talking to women about these paths because it took me 70 years to find them. And maybe they're newer now because of technology, I'm sure, but they're here. And we do have this available at our help. So I look forward to seeing everything you're doing in this new niche for yourself because it's so needed. It's so
Thank
needed.
you.
The neurodivergent are there waiting for you to help them. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk another time about cannabis for the neurodiverse. Well, neurodivergent.
Cannot wait. Yeah. Miss Yogini, what is it? Yogini what?
Primal Yogini.
Primal Yogini. I love that. Primal Yogini. Miss Primal Yogini, you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And also emilykaspari.com. Don't miss going and visiting with Emily personally because you're just a darling young woman and I love what you're doing and thank you for helping others too. This is what we're doing, locking arms with women and helping women rise in our society. So, huzzah.
Huzzah.
All right, darling, I'll see you again on the flip side, and expect an invitation through LinkedIn to Dr. Miyabi Shields. I think you're going to love each other.
Okay. Well, and you connect with me too on LinkedIn.
I definitely will. Okay, I'm going to go look for you. Toodaloo, honey. Bye-bye. Thank you again.
You've been listening to another Cannabis Truth Podcast with 21st century cannabis shaman Honey Smith Walls. Using cannabis mindfully as medication is a different concept in Western healthcare philosophy, specifically over the past century. There's a lot to learn and reconsider. The scientific truth of cannabis is finally getting out and is wide open for all to see at respected medical sites like the National Library of Medicine at pubmed.gov and the Journal of American Medical Association at JAMAnetwork.com. We here at the Cannabis Truth Podcast are right there in the thick of it, alongside the titans of medicine, as a fly on the wall. We are not doctors, nor did we go to medical school, but we have taken dozens of private cannabis courses and still engage in continuing education offered by expert cannabis scientists. Over the past few years, we slowly began to see and understand the bigger picture. Now we hear from people all day long about cannabis. It is so important to use verifiably safe products. The process of getting a diagnosis from your family doctor and taking your records to a cannabis specialist can lead you to the correct cannabinoid therapy for your specific issues. Otherwise, you're simply your own guinea pig looking for answers without the foundational knowledge or ability to determine your best strategy. To find a qualified cannabis expert in your area, visit cannabisclinicians.org. This is a national society of cannabis experts. Look for the link in the show notes. Unless otherwise proven by a reputable third-party lab test, please regard all street weed as contaminated. It may do grave harm to a patient with a delicate immune system who already has inflammatory issues like arthritis, IBS, fibromyalgia, or worse. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you find value and understanding through the conversations you've heard on this podcast.
She walked in with wisdom and a fire in her eyes, talking plant truth where the silence lies. From the roots to the bloom, she saw the light. Now she's teaching folks how to heal it right. Not afraid to challenge the tale of lazy myths in a system that failed. She's got science in one hand, stories in the other. Lifts up the voices they tried to smother. Honey knows, honey grows. Truth in the soil and love in the smoke. Speaking for the elders and the ones left behind. She's the shaman of the leaf with a warrior's mind. Yeah, honey knows how the healing flows. From Florida sun to digital waves, she's breaking down fear with every word she says. Cannabis truth, that's her battle cry. For the mamas and papas still scared to try. She ain't selling hype, she's serving facts. Taking big pharma to school with class. With a mic and a mission, she lights the way for the lost and the curious every day. Honey knows, honey grows. Truth in the bud and peace in the dose. Teaching the plant like a sacred art. From the ECS to the beating heart. Yeah, honey knows. How the healing flows. She's been burned by the system, lifted by the plant, giving voice to the ones who thought they can. A sister, a savior.